Congratulations to the boy who will sign a long-term contract at Real Madrid this week, and also Real Madrid have been able to enter into a very advanced negotiation between Paris Saint-Germain and Yan Diomande, because Yan Diomande mid-June said yes to Paris Saint-Germain on personal terms, wanted to go to Paris Saint-Germain, but then in the space of 30-40 days, PSG were not able to reach an agreement with Red Bull Leipzig. The negotiation went slow between the clubs. Real Madrid have entered very strong, and now they have one more superstar for Jose Mourinho, because Yan Diomande this week will be in Madrid for a medical test and contract signing.
Let's go into the details of this, because Real Madrid managed to win a race against Paris Saint-Germain as well. So how did they make it?
They did it by entering very, very strong, because Jose Mourinho in a meeting over the last 10 days indicated to the club and to Florentino Perez that he wanted more speed up front. So he wanted something different also in terms of skills, and a player like Diomande could represent present and future in this sense, because can be really important in terms of development, in terms of future growth. Real Madrid are convinced that the best is yet to come for Yan Diomande, and also financially they understood that Paris Saint-Germain were yet to reach an agreement with Red Bull Leipzig. So Real Madrid were in Germany. Their people traveled to Germany to prepare this negotiation. Then the opening bid was rejected, 90 million euros plus 10 in advance, and now Real Madrid get the deal done for more than 100 million euros. So it's going to be a very expensive deal. All the details will be clear over the week, but the deal is in place, and Real Madrid will get Yan Diomande.
What has been the reaction of Paris Saint-Germain after what happened? Here we go as well.
Yeah, very, very upset. Very upset. At the beginning, surprised, because Paris Saint-Germain till 2 days ago were convinced that at the end of the day they were going to reach an agreement with Red Bull Leipzig and they were going to bring him Yan Diomande. So for sure the expectation was for the deal to happen. Then at the same time, where Real Madrid entered, PSG were quite disappointed with Real Madrid. They didn't expect this surprise. It's also true there is the market. Then Paris Saint-Germain have released a private statement tonight sent to all the media by saying that they didn't want to enter into a fight with crazy fees, crazy salary, and also they are not happy with the agents. So Paris Saint-Germain are really upset. And this is why the end of the story is with Yan Diomande going to Real Madrid, but we know that already in the past Real Madrid and PSG had some issues with the Kylian Mbappé story, and now once again with Yan Diomande.
What can we expect now from Paris Saint-Germain? Because we expect them to go on the market, right?
Yeah, for sure, because Kangin Lee went to Atletico Madrid, Gonzalo Ramos went to Milan, now also Diomande is not joining, so for sure Paris Saint-Germain will do something. One name to watch in the next days remains a name we made here on the podcast several times, and is Magnus Akliush from Monaco, because Paris Saint-Germain have an agreement with the player, but they have to close the deal with Monaco, and so on this one Paris Saint-Germain will be ready. And then keep an eye on a story that our friends here on the podcast know very well, because the news is now going everywhere, but the news is about Bradley Barcola, because also Bradley Barcola can leave Paris Saint-Germain in this summer transfer window. Liverpool are really interested. Liverpool consider Barcola their top target. Liverpool are in contact with people close to Barcola, and today Barcola formally informed Paris Saint-Germain about his decision not to sign a new contract at the club. Is nothing imminent, because Barcola is out of contract in June 2028, but for sure is a strong message. Barcola is open to leaving this summer, and Liverpool will try. So this will depend on the club-to-club agreement, because my understanding is that Barcola is quite keen on a move to Liverpool, but for sure another big story to follow in the next weeks.
Another big stories to follow is about Real Madrid, because they're going really big in the market this summer. And what's happening next? Should we also keep an eye on Rodri?
Yeah, we have to keep an eye on Rodri, because on this one, Real Madrid over the last week have been in contact with the agents of the player, and the player is super keen on Real Madrid. I told you in the last podcast, the Rodri story starts from Rodri. It's Rodri who is pushing to go back to Spain. It's football reasons. He dreams of playing for Real Madrid, but it's also personal reasons. So he would love to return to his country. At the same time, waiting for Florentino Perez to give the final approval and start a real negotiation with Man City, because as of today, club-to-club talks have not started yet for Rodri. And then, as I mentioned, we had the stories about Rodri and Paris Saint-Germain in France over the last 2-3 days. Why? Because Paris Saint-Germain are not happy with what happened with Diomande. And so probably we have this kind of stories because Paris Saint-Germain are making some calls also to create an issue around Real Madrid and Rodri. So we have to see what happens there also in terms of pricing, because Rodri still has a contract with Man City, and I don't think Man City are selling Rodri for 20 or 30 million euros, even if he's out of contract in 10 months. And so there is going to be movement, and it's going to be, I think, a very interesting topic to follow.
Speaking of midfielders, what about Bruno Guimaraes?
Get ready also this one, because in the next days Arsenal will be in contact again with Newcastle for Bruno Guimaraes. Arsenal are preparing a new proposal. Arsenal want Bruno Guimaraes. They have an agreement with the boy. Bruno wants to go to Arsenal. Now this depends on the clubs. Arsenal already had 2 verbal proposals, not proposals in paper, but verbal approaches made by the agents of the player with Newcastle, turned down by Newcastle. So at the moment there is no club-to-club agreement. Newcastle still hope to keep Bruno, but Arsenal will return. Arsenal are back to the table. Arsenal will try again, and I think for this one, from what I'm told, Mikel Arteta is really pushing. So Bruno Guimaraes is really a big topic to follow for Arsenal, because he's the top target and the player wanted by Mikel Arteta.
Speaking of midfielders, there were some rumors also on Leon Goretzka after the injury of Frankie de Jong. Is a possibility for Barcelona this summer?
Yeah, from what I understand, this story is completely wide of mark, because the understanding is that Barcelona are not negotiating for Goretzka. I understand that sometimes there are some links because the player is German. Frankie de Jong got injured, and Hansi Flick is German as well. So maybe the connection Flick-Goretzka brought people to link this player with Barca. But my understanding is that Barcelona are currently not working on Leon Goretzka deal. Yes, Frankie de Jong will be out for some time, but at the moment Barcelona are not considering Goretzka as the ideal replacement, and so they are looking at different options. Also, Goretzka has several proposals. It's a big opportunity. On a free, left Bayern. He had some approaches from MLS over the last few weeks, also from Chicago, to reunite Goretzka and Lewandowski, but my understanding is that the player's preference is to continue in Europe, so let's see if he finds the right project in the next days or weeks.
Many midfielders. The last one for today is Camavinga.
Yeah, for Camavinga, we have to mention that Real Madrid are eventually open to the exit of Eduardo Camavinga, maybe also linked to what's going to happen with Rodri, but Real Madrid are not closing doors to the exit of Eduardo Camavinga. The point here on Camavinga is the desire of the player. My understanding is that Eduardo Camavinga still wants to continue at Real Madrid. Eduardo Camavinga doesn't want Real Madrid to leave Real Madrid so young, and especially after a very difficult season. He's aware of last season being really disappointing, so it was not the real Camavinga. He did very bad, but at the same time, he was also unlucky with some injuries, with some problems. So Camavinga wants to restart, wants to show that the real Camavinga is the one we know from a few years ago. And so Camavinga is still determined to continue at the club. So let's see what's going to happen there. If some club will maybe convince Camavinga, Real Madrid are not closing doors to an exit. But again, the player is still very happy at Real Madrid and wants to fight for his place under Jose Mourinho.
Speaking of Real Madrid, there are also some other outgoings planned this summer.
Yeah, there will be movements now, also because they signed so many players, and so it makes sense also to consider some exits. For example, Franco Mastantuono can leave on loan in a similar situation to Hendrik in January. Hendrik went to Olympique Lyon. Now the understanding is that for Franco Mastantuono, Real Madrid are considering proposals on loan from France, from Italy, from Spain. So it's going to be Mastantuono with his agents and with the club to decide the best pathway to follow for the next months and for the next season. But Mastantuono can leave on loan, and then keep an eye also on Gonzalo Garcia, because in London, Fulham, Craven Cottage, the coach is Alvaro Arbeloa. He loves Gonzalo Garcia. In January, Gonzalo Garcia had the possibility to leave Real Madrid and Hendrik to stay, and it was Alvaro Arbeloa to say, no, Gonzalo Garcia is staying with me and Hendrik can go on loan. So this is showing you how much trust Alvaro Arbeloa has in Gonzalo Garcia. And now Alvaro Arbeloa is also recasting Gonzalo for Fulham. So I expect Fulham to come to the table in the next days to make a proposal to Real Madrid. Let's see what's going to happen there, but for sure, an interesting one to follow as well.
All right, Fabri, this is it for today, but speak soon here on the podcast as well for many in the next days. Ciao.
Thank you. See you soon.